The second premise is that when we over-invest in ego or self-image, we simultaneously disinvest in relational possibility. And to the extent that our stories function to tether us to self-image, they move us away from an expanded image of relational or human possibility. When stories function to serve our egos, they actually deconstruct our capacities for empathy, authenticity, and mutual growth. And these are the vital capacities that we have to cultivate if our goal is to move toward the kind of conversation that empowers genuine and sustainable connection. Although the author insists that her only goal was to write a simple story about connection across the boundaries of race and class, what she in fact accomplishes is a script that perfectly conforms to the power over narrative of race in this culture. In spite of her best intentions, the story is classic in its deconstruction of empathy and authenticity. And let me offer just two examples. First, nothing dissolves empathy more expeditiously than the creation of a not me persona. There's a well-worn joke about a narcissist who shifts a conversation by saying, well, enough talk about me, now you tell me what you think about me. And by persistently deploying the not me persona, the author accomplishes the same sleight of tongue. The author defines her protagonist, Skeeter, in terms of her differentness from everyone else. In the first instance, the maids in the story. In the process of overemphasizing differentness, and quite specifically, difference in terms of socially denigrated traits, mere difference is transformed into not me. And although the narrative structure suggests that each maid is telling her story, each story is mere backdrop to the larger project of establishing the persona, the preferred persona of Skeeter, the author's presumptive alter ego. In contrast to the tall, slender, aristocratic white Skeeter, the maids are big, unsophisticated, and oh, so many shades and textures of black. Ebony and shining black, shiny and taut like a pair of patent leather shoes black, 10 times blacker than black. Although, well, I would say just again, the fixation on color, size, and need I say language is used to amplify otherness and situates the help within the power over narrative of race in this culture. In the power over narrative, large size, blackness, and big bosoms carry cultural meaning, and they are the physical requirements of the beloved mammy caricature. The flip side of the color fetish is the appearance of the tragic mulatto. In this case, she appears in the form of the maid Constantine's banished daughter, who threatens to destabilize Skeeter's happy home and is ultimately the cause of Constantine's lethal heartbreak. Each act of deconstruction requires a not me. In other words, lapses of empathy are rooted in disconnection from our own experience. And the author relentlessly pursues this project by dissociating herself, or Skeeter, not only from the black maids, but from the other white women in the novel. While Skeeter is clever, kind-hearted, and endearingly unconventional, the other white women are shallow and are mean-spirited, ill-suited to any task other than social climbing, chasing men, and endless carping with their mothers. Of course, the ultimate expression of not me is Skeeter. Hilly, Skeeter's best friend. Not me from everything from her overly strained bathing suit to her vicious and inventive racism. Hilly is the ultimate mean girl. And with Hilly firmly in charge of enacting extreme racism, the other characters are free to practice the day-to-day racism that maintains the social order. The readers are not obliged to feel sympathy or identification with Hilly. In fact, they're invited to laugh when Hilly is subjected to the ultimate indignity of eating her nemesis' feces. When we have a Hilly to embody not me, we need not confront our own moral ambiguities and contradictions. And where there is no awareness of moral ambiguity, there is high susceptibility to unconscious cruelty. The second act of deconstruction occurs through what Toni Morrison calls natal isolation. And in its most elemental sense, natal isolation refers to the assumption that slave women are not real mothers to their own children and that their children have no claim on them. What was accomplished by the auction block in centuries past is now accomplished by a common literary device. Strip black characters of a family community. In the case of the help, the children are dead, abandoned, or out of control, more burdensome than beloved. For example, in the most bizarre turn of plot, Constantine abandons her daughter Lulabelle in a random orphanage more than 1,000 miles away, rather than face the challenge of raising a light-skinned child. Now, given the generally well-known tradition of other mothers and communal parenting in the traditional Southern culture, as well as widely varying pigmentation in black families, one must wonder why the author went to such extremes to separate Constantine from her child. The Help follows a narrative tradition that strips the beloved mammies of any ties that might constrain their physical and emotional serviceability to white characters. The subjectivities, the purposes, the values of the Help are reduced to one function: boundless devotion and availability to their white superiors. When my mother died, I met for the first time a man in whose home she had worked for over 50 years, a job for which she was paid $3 a day up until 1970. He wept as he shared a poem, a tribute to her service with his family, describing how she had turned his house into a happy home. He told me that on his desk there's a picture with a caption, "My Two Mamas." It is a picture of himself as a toddler, standing between his mother and my mother. And no doubt, just this past Thursday, he was at her graveside, as he is every holiday, Mother's Day, and on her birthday, to leave her flowers. His is a story that is filled with very powerful truths, as is my own. He knew his beloved Mary. I knew the mother who loved to write and draw, who loved poetry, and who forced me to memorize Longfellow and Dunbar and even the Gettysburg Address. I knew the mother who was the church treasurer and who behaved with such dignity that many people simply assumed that she was a school teacher. As a child, I had very happy Christmases and birthdays, but over the course of this very project, it occurred to me that I had never spent a full day of Christmas, Thanksgiving, or any other holiday with my mother until I was an adult with my own family. Her job was to make his house a happy home. I have no doubt that strong bonds of affection grow even across the most pernicious power divides. Such affection, however, does not redeem or justify the violations and indignities inherent to a power over narrative, the master narrative of race in this country. Such affection does not exempt us from the responsibility to create a new narrative, one that challenges us to change and be changed by each other. So how do we begin to tell stories that call us to a new imagination of ourselves? How can we grow into a more authentic voice in the telling of our stories?